Who's funnier than the mayor?
National pastime.
Oh, I know. Thank you. Let's call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To signify the importance of today, we're going to have a little bit longer moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Sunshine Law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of September 11th, 2023 is available by calling phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in the scheduled meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2023-13, sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 6, 2023, posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board, and the municipal building, and it's remaining continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Council members Cole.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Touch.
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
Net. Rodriguez.
We are going to start with a proclamation, random acts of beauty. I am going to read out, this is through the Garden Club. They rode through the town, identifying front and side yard properties with gardens that contain colorful and attractive flowers or horticulture. And whereas residences, garden plots, and businesses were eligible for this award, and whereas members of the Garden Club chose the following residences, businesses, and community garden plots as recipients of the Random Acts of Beauty Award. You want to read them? Winners? You and I can go ahead and do it. Okay. All right. And I don't know who has shown up today, but first off is the Casey residence at 263 Fairhaven Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Quick photo op, photo op.
Everybody else? Oh, you too. Terry, can you jump up here? Come on. Come on, she was one of the judges. Oh, if I get you out. There you go. Right here. Very nice.
Next up is the DeMarco residence at 5 Dana Court.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Beautiful job. Thank you. She's not.
One done.
Okay.
Thank you. I might pronounce this wrong. Next up is Noanauska residence. Is that correct? They here?
Are they on as participants?
Let's give a round of applause. Yeah. Next up, 37 Harbor Road, the DeFalco residence. All right.
Nail theories.
Porter Designs.
No, the Falcon.
Porter Designs.
The business. Definitely.
Anyone want to act like they're from Puerto Rico? Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and council and the Garden Club of Fairhaven wish to recognize these residents, business, and garden plot owners for making Fairhaven a beautiful place to be. Congratulations.
Mayor, did you guys get a notification too about a letter?
Thank you.
They received a notification too about a letter, the residents.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Is it Cindy Scove?
Garden plot.
The garden plot.
Cindy, she couldn't make it, she was going away, hers was mailed.
What's your first and last name?
What's the last name?
Sounding too late.
Yeah.
On there.
You didn't give it to me. It's there. It is there.
No.
We have the piano.
Thank you.
Okay. Workshop session, tree removal appeal from 554 River Road. Is there anyone here from 554 River, any chance? No, does anyone here have a question, comment?
I just want to commend the new owner of the Valera gas station, because I don't know if anybody else from the council, I live right around from there. So Smith Street, you couldn't walk, cars everywhere, garbage everywhere, and in the last like 2 months, it's been a huge transformation. When you do walk by, you will see the diseased trees that are there. It's really apparent. So I just want to put that on the record, Mayor, that I really appreciate his attention, for her attention.
I just want to point out that it seemed to me from reading the report that there's one tree that they're recommending to not knock down, our tree expert.
Yeah, I did a little research on that, hopefully to follow Bill, Brooks. What he taught me is, that's a Zilkova tree, which some of you might recognize. But he said, but it's actually almost tricked him. He's never seen one until this one. It's a special Zilkova, a different varietal, a native to the island of Taiwan, and very unusual to find here. For some reason, it's thriving. So correct, that is special, and as Sherry has said as well. And the only other thing I would add is, in this appeal, I'll back up and say, our business district is where we have the least tree canopy throughout the borough. When trees come out, it's hard to put them back in, just because it's more paved, so more impervious surface, less planting opportunities. I'd like to see the new owner plant new trees. So take out the root ball, especially in that buffer area between the Acme on the eastern edge of the property. Yeah, as a buffer between those two uses. Sorry. And the last note on that is the applicant can certainly get good recommendations from Shade Tree Commission and the resources available, professional resources available to them. We had a suggestion from Bill in that conversation for elm. There's a certain kind of elm, and there's multiple varietals as part of the elm tree. We thought it would be suitable plantings for that buffer.
Are they required based on the current ordinance, Attorney Sobel, to plant a new tree? If they're not knocking down the Zelkova and the other trees are diseased or dead, do they have to plant the trees?
No.
That's a problem.
It
It is, I think we need the trees, especially since this is an appeal, but
the current ordinance, I believe it was tree perfect.
yeah.
You don't have the ordinance.
On tree for tree, you take one down, you put one up.
Even if they're diseased?
Right.
How do they read if
Just
they're
put a
diseased?
tag.
That doesn't sound right to me.
They're not all diseased. I think if they're diseased or not, there's no replanting obligation.
Yeah.
My understanding of the law.
If they're diseased trees, they have to be taken down or they pose some sort of safety risk, then there would be no obligation to replant, is my understanding.
I don't think the crabapple is diseased. It's just not gonna have planting areas, so. But the.
Well, it says here they hang over areas where people walk or park.
That's
So it's on
true.
the street side, I'm assuming.
It is on Smith Street side.
It just would be nice to have some kind of green buffer between the gas station and the Acton parking lot.
Great, it would.
And I don't know, is it a suggestion? Is it a request?
Why don't you make it as a recommendation?
Sure.
They're good neighbors, right? They're doing the right thing.
They're doing the right thing.
So why don't you make it a recommendation, grant the approvals, subject to them keeping the Zelkova tree, but pruning it,
Yeah.
right? That has to be pruned.
By professional.
And then make a strong recommendation that they replant, for the buffer zone.
Trees that are appropriate for that area.
Absolutely.
So
I
one
mentioned
big-
that Bradford pears are failing there, and they're technically an invasive.
Yeah.
So-
They said
Or not native, but,
So-
I invited me to this meeting.
So wanna make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the appeal under the following, and everyone correct me if I'm gonna correctly, the Zakova gets trimmed / pruned by a professional. And then we're going to strongly suggest that the trees that are removed are replaced accordingly with a tree on the native tree list.
Well, the only two recommendations Bill had was the LA elm and the two varietals, a harmony and a frontier. But I would leave that to the experts,
Yes.
just some sort of baseline.
Can we give a suggestion time frame for this gets done by F date or within X days?
Well, it's a recommendation. I don't think it's not a binding.
Right, but we're recommending by X day.
They're going to the kind of continuing.
Right.
But to be honest, I just mentioned this to Allison, is I have a problem when people, file an appeal and they don't appear.
Right.
To argue their case. That's when recommendations can be almost conditioned. Right, and they can agree to that, so that could be something that you could consider, tabling it and saying, listen, you filed an appeal. You don't have the time to even come and
Yeah.
present your case,
Yeah.
so we're gonna table until you're in attendance.
Yeah, it's important.
I hear you. My only concern is if those trees are diseased, and we're saying that people walk underneath them. And someone walks underneath them in the time period that we table it, and a tree falls on someone. And, they're either dead or they're not there.
They're not.
I wouldn't have any problem tabling for the 2 weeks. I think if they've been deceased for that many years.
Is it a requirement though for them to attend and appeal?
I invited Mr. Singh. He lives like an hour and a half from here. And I sent him the Zoom invite, told him to join us virtually. I don't see him on the list.
The new owner's been pretty, he's been working pretty hard to clean up the site.
Yes.
I think he's gonna take our recommendations and implement them. That would be my personal opinion.
The planning board?
About putting trees in?
No, the applicant. The new owner.
What about it?
Never mind, I don't need to mess issues.
No, because we're not, that ordinance is not in place yet.
Right.
Given, I'm comfortable approving it, given the successful track record that he's had since, I believe he purchased the place, correct?
Yeah.
He did.
He's a new
and
owner.
Still,
He's had zoning
switching it to
up.
BP.
Yeah, he sold all of the abandoned plows that were in there. He got rid of the 55 gallon drums that were all back there, like
So that's my question, is he going to the zoning board or the planning board?
for the appeal.
No. As the new owner converting it to a BP, is it going to one of the land use boards?
He has an application before the zoning officer. I don't know that it's been acted on. For various
Okay.
Might just
Island.
change of use.
signs, some change of
Okay,
island,
got
and
it.
some other things.
Got
So
it.
he's working.
Okay.
Those operations do address that
Absolutely.
situation as well.
Great point. Yes.
So I'm comfortable approving and then, but still suggesting to do what we're saying, but keeping the Zakova. And then as a fail safe falling to the application where we're at today,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
we can
We
add
can
it.
send it to the
Yeah,
land use
absolutely.
board that's in.
That's a good idea.
Okay,
So that's my motion.
second,
1 second.
Want me to one more time?
Sure, go for it.
So motion to approve the appeal under, it sounds like 3 items. 1, they don't do this Zakova. It gets pruned by a professional. 2, there's the strong recommendation to replace the dead trees that they remove in accordance with a professional, but aligned with our list that's been publicized. And the third one is we'll engage with the planning board, zoning officer, whoever has the application to ensure that there's alignment on the tree front there. Did I get that correct?
for the buffer.
The buffer, Smith
Yeah.
Street and Acme Valera. Those are the three
All right.
buffers.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Proposed 2024 council meeting dates. I had. Just looking at it. They have us at Monday, February 12th. I would prefer to meet on February 5th. If that's okay for everyone.
I would too, Mayor, thanks, I
Okay.
thought of that same one.
Additionally, I do think it's appropriate to move April 22nd to April 23rd. If that's okay with everyone.
Mhm.
Any problems there? Monday, April 22nd.
Mayor, walk me through, so what's the second day of Passover though? Do we wanna look at that week writ large? Like, that's fairly significant, right? At sundown and all that, I don't.
If we're going to meet that week, I think it's more appropriate to meet on not the first,
The first night,
not the first.
Right.
Why don't we make a different week? Is that all?
Mhm.
Just push the 29th?
No, because then it goes until the,
29.
goes to the 30th.
is that a bad thing? I just
You
want to
can do
like,
the first or the last night, so.
I just know the significance of Passover, my family celebrates it, but they're
I
not
think it goes to the
family.
30th.
Mhm.
What'd you say?
I think it goes to the 30th.
Okay, so my personal, my recommendation based on that is that's not gonna be helpful anyway. I would go on the 23rd. And, those of us that celebrate won't be in attendance. Anybody have a problem with that?
You won't be here?
I'm okay with that.
That's not what I said.
Are you sure?
Well, we can't move it a week later, because we have the same issue. You wanna, and you don't wanna move it another week, it'll be within 1 week of the next meeting.
Right.
And it's, do we have a meeting that's 3 weeks away in either direction? I don't think we do, right? The only direction is towards May, not in the other direction,
Check.
okay? All right,
So the 5th of February.
5th of February, April 23rd, and then, I don't know that this one works for everyone, but I was gonna ask if we can move Monday, June 10th to the 11th. By any chance?
Mayor, you wouldn't be able to have a meeting the 22nd, the 23rd, or the 24th, or the 29th, or the 30th.
We're talking about back in April?
Yeah.
Say the dates
You would
again?
only be able to work on April 25th, 26th, and 28th.
Why is that?
Fine.
It's the days that your work is permitted.
Hmm.
But that, you're just talking about people that are working, not necessarily that could listen to a meeting, correct? Residents?
Right.
That's up to you. I'm all right with keeping it on the 25th. Is that a problem?
No.
That's okay.
All right. Is everyone all right with moving that one other date, Monday, June 10th to Tuesday, June 11th? Does that work?
And
Is that a problem?
why are we doing that again?
Do I have to be transparent?
It's your birthday.
Anniversary.
Yes. Oh, no problem.
If it doesn't work, that's fine.
No, no,
We'll keep
no.
the 10th. Is that easier for the staff to keep the 10th?
No, it's fine.
It's fine?
Doesn't matter to us.
Okay,
I've noted,
Alright.
duly noted.
okay. That's all I have.
Hold on. June. Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't, rec. Or, planning board, but it's not.
Okay,
I have two thoughts.
yep,
I have found it extremely challenging this year when we've had one governing body meeting. And I know that there's a reason that is a certain way in August and December. But I wanted to propose, does it make sense shifting up the meeting dates in August or December? And adding another one in there somehow. I don't know if we want to, I don't know if we want to stick to, if we need a special meeting, we can call it. But just given how much time is in between. And how that compounds the amount of work that goes into this before and after, I'm just throwing it out there. The answer is no, it's fine, but I wanted to ask.
the only thing I'd say is historically, August, the meetings have been relatively short, and I think December is sort of the same way, they've been short, so I understand why you're saying that, but I also think that facilities.
Is it an anomaly?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was.
So we can always call a
You
special.
know, I just wanted to raise it, right, just because we don't know.
For everyone out there, this does not surprise me that Councilman Borough wants to do more.
I love this stuff, all right, like, it's great being up here, and I like seeing all your faces, so. Forgive me.
Anything else on the dates? From the start? They all working?
Most of our meetings start at 7. Does the reorganization meeting start at 7 also?
Correct.
Mhm.
We're good?
Mhm.
All right, we don't have to vote on that, right? Or do we, Teresa?
You'll have
Put
it
it
in
on the next.
Next one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. DPW, small ticket capital? Teresa?
Yes, I think that, I believe Councilman Borough has already gone over, the fact that part of our relocation plans for DPW are going to have us, putting certain operations in trailers. And I mean trailers that we can utilize for, our ground crew. And we're gonna utilize one for our,
It's for landscaping, line cutting, and field tracking.
environment. And so the estimate that we have for the trailers, including equipment that we need, is approximately, $28,000 to $30,000. Last year, when the DPW, when the governing body did small ticket capital for DPW, they authorized a pickup truck in the amount of $33,500. We never purchased the pickup truck because they weren't available. And now, of course, the prices have skyrocketed. So what we're looking to do here is to just reallocate those funds that were previously available for the pickup truck towards these trailers. And in that case, I would just, sign the purchase orders for the trailers and move on. But I wanted the governing body to be aware of that and be aware of the fact that that's basically what we're using. We're using small ticket capital that was otherwise encumbered last year for a pickup truck that was never purchased.
Are we gonna be asked again next year to buy a pickup truck?
I'm sure at some point they'll need another pickup truck. We're sort of hoping that two things happen, that supply gets better and that, prices regulate out. We're having the same issue in PD. We're having the same issue with the truck we're trying to buy for recreation. It's just been very difficult to procure any vehicles.
And two other data points. One, the 5 commercial shipping containers, right, that are on the DPW site. One, if not two of them, have some of the equipment in there that would be permanently put in the trailers, right? Because those commercial containers are going away as part of the plan to reduce the industrial site. We were looking at a 4th trailer. However, we looked internally and Chief is working with DPW. There's an OEM trailer that Chief currently has, or the police currently have, excuse me. And that equipment is going into the new police station, so it frees up a 4th trailer. So we said, in buying new, we know this trailer, we know the ins and outs of it, we know the maintenance schedules, right, we know all these different components, let's just repurpose it. So originally we were looking at 4, we got this one that we'll repurpose because we're shifting OEM and then only have to invest in the 3.
So these are enclosed trailers where we'll keep it, they'll be weather safe
Correct,
for equipment that
Yes.
lives in there, but can be hauled from site to site. So it's more efficient.
100%.
And is the 33.5, can you get used trailers for that?
Yes, the estimate is a little less than 30.
Okay,
And
I
so
see this as a very smart solution to otherwise complex.
it is, and Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the lead time on these, I think they're either off the lot or there's like a week or 2 lead time. And the reason that's important is because we'll talk about it, but on 22 September, that's the day we're targeting getting the DPW workers out of there. Right, 3 weeks ago, we had part of the roof cave in, I don't know what just happened with the rain just now, get them out, get them situated, make them operational. As soon as we can, fair?
How quickly will we have the trailers?
I think it'll probably, but we kept the purchase order this week, we'll probably get them in about,
October,
yeah,
by the time they're ordered, they're new trailers.
So they're new.
Yes. We already have the quotes, so. they're ready.
Okay.
Go in there tomorrow just to finalize everything. And, get more detail on what the lead time is.
And we don't, and used trailers isn't a consideration?
The price of the trailers,
It wasn't that much different?
that and just the purchasing through as a municipality, it's more complicated. To go out and try to find used trailers, compare quotes. and the whole thing that comes back.
Maintenance schedules, all those other
And
pieces.
usually if someone's getting rid of stuff, there's a reason why they're getting rid of it, so.
Good. Good there?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. Proposed lead paint inspection ordinance?
Yes, just so, the governing body is probably aware, the state of New Jersey has, passed, legislation that requires, people who are either renting or, selling homes, that were built prior to 78, to have, inspections for lead paint. The borough, in conjunction with working with our, Monmouth Regional Health Commission, was in needing to bring that process, in-house and to be able to, oversee it. This ordinance is, step one in doing that. Residents, when they're done, will have the ability, to either go out and, contract themselves, with a private contractor to have the inspections done. Or, Monmouth Regional Health Commission will have, that, service available for a fee. The people would come in here, they'll fill out a form, they'll pay the fee. The Regional Health Commission inspector will come out, they'll do the inspection, they'll bill the borough. So, in order to move forward with the whole process, today's the first, or next meeting will be the first introduction of that required ordinance. The Regional Health Commission set up a fee schedule for their services, which people are not compelled to use if they want to go out and find their own, licensed inspector. We'll get a registration form. We'll set the Regional Health Commission up as a vendor. And then, we'll monitor this through block and lot files and of course, get the word out. Most people now, through their realtors, realize that they have to have the inspections done. It's not optional. So this ordinance to be introduced in the next meeting, will set that process up within the borough.
Couple quick questions, if I could.
Sure.
So am I to understand that up until now, we haven't had any inspection for lead-based paint?
People have, people have done it on their own as they turn it over. But as far as, the borough, monitoring that and having residents come to us, this would be the first step in that.
And does the inspection capacity exist already and with our interlocal?
With the Regional Health Commission has that.
Through the-
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Okay, so it'll be a separate interlocal.
It's not really, it's really, we already are a member of the Regional Health Commission.
Okay,
This will be using their inspectors and their equipment. If residents see fit to want to do that, we certainly aren't going to do the inspections ourselves. So this is an entity that is available to the borough and to the residents should they want to utilize it.
and any inspection fees associated with that are covered by the applicant?
Yes.
And last question, sorry.
No, you're good.
This is the kind of thing that would ordinarily get, there's a backstop with a CO that would catch this
Yes.
kind of thing. Can you explain to us our CO or lack thereof and what conditions, what
So the borough
situations?
does not have a CO for either change of sale or rentals at this juncture.
New construction?
Only new construction.
Only new
And new construction really wouldn't impact that because it wasn't built before 1978.
Okay, those are my questions for now. Thanks, Mayor.
I'm just curious in the first sentence, right, whereas pursuant all those code language, lead-based paint inspections in rental dwellings. Are we only talking rental dwellings?
I'm pretty sure it's rental and
Rental.
it's not the change of sale either.
No, there's a-
Okay.
Because then it's a municipality required to ensure inspection of every single family, two family, multiple rental dwelling located. So we're not talking about homes, we're just talking about instances where homes are rented out.
Yeah,
Or business.
This is mostly in urban areas, right? So, say like Newark, New Jersey, they have their own department that all they do is they test for lead, right? Because a lot of landlords, they don't maintain their properties, they let it go into a dilapidated condition. There's, chipping paint,
Mhm.
and chipping paint contains lead, and there's high lead levels. And that's common in these older buildings in, urban areas. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say this could happen anywhere. And why don't we establish that? And I know this stuff because I do a lot of real estate
Yeah.
work for rental properties. And the DCA said, let's start looking at rental properties in, suburban and rural areas as well, because there is the chance of it. Here, where, homes are being built, obviously in 2023, they don't have lead paint issues at that time. So,
Can I ask something provocative, and it's purely a learning moment for me? Or why not take this a step further, and just do every single building in Fairhaven? Residential, commercial, business, rental, non-rental, like all of it. And I'm asking that purely to have a learning moment.
Yeah.
Right, like,
All of our businesses are.
Well, I assume there's a cost associated with doing that.
I mean, it's not a cost that's borne by us.
Everybody else.
I don't think you have the same exposure over time. Lead paint exposure, they're worried about small children crawling around the house and eating paint chips, not so much as you not to walk into a local pizzeria and have that same
The
concern.
reason is because we don't have a requirement here for a certificate of habitability when there is a rental of an apartment or a house,
Over 90 days.
right? 95.
95 days.
Over 90 days.
Because we don't have that requirement. When you look at when someone buys a house, right? They are having their own inspector come to look at whether there's the presence of asbestos, lead paint, potential for lead paint, and those are all things that the buyer would be able to test prior to purchasing either the building or the home.
Fair, understood.
So,
What about then, like, in the planning board instance? Like, making it part of the planning board process or zoning board process, that if a business comes in and wants change of use and they go to the planning board, or a homeowner comes in and wants to
It's
renovate.
never gonna be a business. It's only going to be a rental property for residential.
Okay, all right.
We're good?
Now we on the next agenda for minutes.
Thank you. Note to anyone following along here, the amendment to tree preservation ordinance has been tabled for consideration on a future agenda. Police promotion interview date of October 3rd. Is everyone all right with that?
Do we have a time?
We have a time. We have a time for that.
No, really up to you.
Is this a special?
This is a special meeting for 6 p.m.
How many do we have?
How many we have?
It'll be about 3 hours.
What's the earliest you guys can do it? Let me ask that question.
I could be here at 5.
5 is good.
Can you do 5?
Oh, I would love to make 5 happen.
Yeah, 5.
hours.
I wouldn't be enough time, would it?
4 is a little dicey.
Four-
I can't do
4:30?
I have an appointment on that day that I have to be at,
So
so.
5 is the earliest. You said.
I
could do
know.
5.
You can start without me. I don't think I'll be back by 5.
You don't think you're there?
Not that you need me here for the
Yeah,
interviews.
Alex,
You
yeah.
certainly
Yeah,
can
I
for
think we
that.
would. Well, if you're not gonna be here though, we could go earlier if you guys are leaving early. 4:30?
I can.
That's the earliest I can.
I can make 4:30 happen. Chief, 3 hours, knowing who I think it's gonna be a little bit longer, just want to ask a lot of questions. So I just,
Should we do morning?
morning's gonna be tough.
4:30 then?
4:30? All
Can you
right.
make 4:30 work?
I'll make 4:30 work. And then I don't know if we'll even talk about this, last time you prepared
Questions.
that like document, can we use something that's like?
I'm happy to put it together. Verify you.
We have reached the public comment on agenda items only portion of the meeting. Anyone in the public has a public comment on agenda items only, please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please try to observe a time limit of 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the public comment on agenda items only? No, Allison, is there anyone? Anyone?
No hands are up.
No hands up, let's move along. Approval of minutes, August 14th, 2023, regular meeting, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Council members Paul,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes, and thank you.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
I said yes. Did you hear me or no?
It passed, right?
He's talking.
Yes.
You might be on mute, Chris.
No.
Can you guys hear me?
No, now we can.
Now we can.
Sorry about that.
Arrow
I'm a
to
yes.
owl.
He's a
Sorry,
yes.
guys. Yeah.
Okay, August 14th, 2023 executive session.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Paul,
Yes.
Howie,
Yes.
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
Thank you. Old business, borough facilities update.
Yep.
Councilman Barbera, he said he was gonna do this in less than 5 minutes. I don't know, we'll see.
Allison, on the sound, if you could just click that real quick, and then up arrow. Did we lose the owl? Hit the echo kick yet?
Yeah.
Chris, quick comm check. Can you just speak real quick on the owl?
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Check, check. Okay, I think we're okay. All right, scroll along.
Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. A lot of changes in the last couple of weeks. So I'll be as succinct as possible and whatever questions you have, just shoot away. So DPW project, it's an updated schedule. I'll refer back to this. I'm just gonna go right to the next slide because I talked about some of the changes. If you want to go right to the next slide. Okay, so initially we were targeting going out to bid tomorrow. There was an ultimate assessment to move that out a few days to allow for ample time to review. The DPW includes an alternate, which is the offsite improvements for Maple Avenue. It somewhat complicates it in the sense of that we have two civil engineers on it, right? One of those civil engineers comes to us. We have the LSRP, which is directly contracted us and not with Ron Grammer and company. So we just wanted a little bit more time, especially make sure from a legal perspective that everything T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And then we confirm that the builder's risk coverage that came in today, which is obviously we need to have. From a temporary ops plan, so going back real quick, so when you look at the schedule, if you go back to the previous slide real quick, Allison, that's what this is. So the bidding period, 22 September, 26 October. Obviously, we have to do a finalized capital expenditure, which we'll talk about a little bit. Still award in November, which will be a governing body meeting, contingent upon having enough financial funds authorized. And then the renovation is far less severe, far less intense when it comes to mobilization, because it's a renovation. Right, we're not, demoing the building, we're not having all of the steel become like the PD and community center. So from what I'm told, what we're educated both from Ron Grammer company as well as the Ferguson, the owner's rep, that mobilization is quicker, by like 2-3 weeks quicker. So expected completions 10 months. So if we start November, 10 months puts us around the summertime. Next slide. Temporary ops plan, Verizon came out, we got Wi-Fi. We're gonna target transition off of the DPW on 22 September, so it's
Next week.
a week from Friday. Working with Rich, working with Chris Allworth. And then we have, I'm just saying the communication plan is in progress with the communications committee. We might talk about it a little bit more later if you guys want to dive into a little bit further. We hit the trailers. I'm really happy that we found that fourth trailer to repurpose for being extremely cost conscious. The other item that's really great, and it's a resolution in tonight's approval, is the auction. So if you recall, as I've been talking through this, we're probably going to end up having 3 auction inflection points, I'll call them, at different times throughout the project where we sell stuff. This first round is significant. There's the cardboard compactor, there's a front loader, there's an exposed trailer, so not an enclosed one, exposed trailer, old salt, picker uppers. Chief has 20 bikes, I think, right? So it includes a lot of stuff. And it'd be really interesting to see how much money comes in from that and how we can use that to offset items potentially. So this approval, I believe, is just for the first auction, right? When we do the second and third auction, we'll have a subsequent list, items, etc. So think like beginning, middle, and end, something to that effect, give or take.
Do we
Yeah.
need the shipping containers during the work?
Yeah.
Okay. got
So
it.
there'll be like a weird transition period.
Mhm.
This based on the schedule, and again, it can change once the contractor comes on board. You figure if the site work for DPW starts in the spring when it warms up, once that's done, maybe that's when they get auctioned sometime in the spring. I don't see it
Okay.
happening before that, because we have OEM stuff in there, we got the sign shop in there. The thought process is the renovation is gonna take 3 to 6 months. And then you do the site work as a phase 2 component. The renovation would completely incur inside. That's why it's a little bit more advantageous. The estimate is that the roof's gonna take 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna do the 2 weeks of the roof, then the team can go inside and start doing what they gotta do. So it's a swag right now. Hopefully we'll get more as the contractors onboarded. But we'll approve the auction well in advance so that, I mean, the company that does this is phenomenal. They come on site, they take pictures, they post it on. I think their fee, Allison, I forget it's in the resolution, 3.5%. Right, so for every $100, we pay them $3.50 and the borough brings home 96.50 on that right now. So it's kind of cool. I'm excited for it. Next slide. Working there. DPW next steps. So the fuel tank, we're still getting all 3 quotes figured out. This was the not to exceed 650K. This will be a future approval point to replace the fuel tanks, which are end of life. We're gonna get 3 quotes. This is the temporary security camera, right? That will be up there. The temporary security camera will go by the recycling center when it's closed to monitor people doing illegal dumping and whatnot. Obviously put the project at the bid, that's the ultimate goal, relocate the team we hit and then engage with the auctioneer. So really like funneling down to, you know, the point where the transition is to the construction, to the owner's reps to just keep doing what they're gonna do. Yeah.
Temporary versus permanent cameras and security?
Yeah, so this is, think of this like a single pole camera, they'll be outside. The actual security includes permanent cameras
Gotcha.
at recycling and cardboard.
Great, thanks.
And we confirmed that it's less than 330 feet from the IP room, which Chris Allworth asked. Don't ask me why I remember that, but he specifically asked like, what was the cable run? Because you can't be a certain distance. And on that note, the other thing too, just because you made me think of it, that we asked for, and don't quote me on the technical speak, we can ask for field of view projection. So we can see what the field of view looks like before we actually install the camera. And if we don't like it, we can change it. So working closely with chief on that, right? Because there's gonna be monitoring, there's gonna be enforcement, there's gonna be all these other components. So gotta work through that. So that's DPW. Pretty straightforward. I'll keep you guys posted. All right, PD community center, this is the big one. So we did pull the resolution tonight. I'll get into that as the reason why, but I want to go through kind of where we are as of today. So on the 31st, the bid period closed. We did the overall bid opening process. We had 9 bids. They ranged from base bid 6.5 million to 9.554 million. Which is a pretty, from what I've been told, a very wide disparity, right? The lowest 4 bidders were these 4 companies: Jared Contracting and Environmental Consultants, cut that off, Structural Concepts, Crossing Construction, Hall Construction. Within, it got really, I'll use the word exciting. JR Contracting withdrew their bid within 24 to 36 hours. That's part of the resolution tonight. I forget what number it is. But when they withdraw their bid, then we have to, Allison, we got to give their bid bond back, right? We're not going to penalize them. I think it's 20 grand. Then Structural Concepts was disqualified. So they had a document that was a fatal defect. It wasn't a fatal defect statutorily. It was a fatal defect per the requested bid documents in the bid process. So Andrew Sobel, Greg Cannon, they were like side by side with Eli in all of this. So if you have any like legal questions, just go right to Andrew. So, however, if you guys remember, I telegraphed that the award of the fire pump could change who the lowest bidder is. We assessed that this was going to be minimal chance. Well, guess what happened?
Yeah.
Right. So JR Contracting Material Structural Concepts gets disqualified. The fire pump now, we need to know whether or not we need it. And that would be able to discern between Crossing Construction and Hall Construction. Their base bids were 8 grand apart. And then with the alternate, their total amount was 15 grand apart. But what happened is they switched. So Hall was the lowest bidder pre-alternate being awarded by 8 grand. Then if the alternate was awarded, Crossing was the lowest bidder by 15 grand. So they swapped. And we have to know that now. We can't award it to the lowest bidder right now. 7 months from now, we say, oh, we actually need the fire pump, and then Crossing would have got it. That's illegal. So if you recall, we had American Water conduct the hydrant flow test and model flow test, which was key. And then the third party Meadowlands conducted a sprinkler density study. I'm not going to read all the hydro calculations. Bottom line, the fire pump is not required. So the not, NOT, not required. No, it's not required. So what that means is the lowest bidder is Hall Construction, what's at 8.2. Now I wanted to give you some numbers, right? The original building calculation. So when we were going through this a couple months ago, we were attempting to assess how much this building would cost. Right, given current environment, current conditions, if you recall, there were a lot of pieces that we added on, the sprinkler system being one of them.
The buildings, both.
Building, yeah, both, and it came in right under 10.3. Right, so I wouldn't call that a budget, but it was a number that we were tracking. The cost estimate, right, the 100% cost estimate that we had for the P that was prepared by, no, this was the third, there was a third party that did it.
Okay, I know, it's Eli the other.
Yeah, PCN, LCN, I can't, thank you. Did the cost estimate, it came in around 8.9 million. So that was already 1.3 million. If you remember when we did this, we said, wow, if we can save over $1 million, right? We were trying to see if it made sense based on our math, and it did, it came in at 1.3. Hall came in at 8.285, which is 670,000 less than what the cost estimate was. So number keeps on working down. Now, this grant, right? What I learned recently was that notices are being sent out to the projects that got awarded. We haven't got our notice yet, but a notice is one of the steps as you go towards that final approval. So what the savings, I'm calling it savings, right? I don't know if that's the right word, probably should have said it's a little misleading. I would say the total cost realization savings, maybe, the range is somewhere between $2 and $3 million from what the original building calculation would have been. Now, I want to really qualify this because I've had a few conversations. It wasn't like these you know, the 17 or $18 million that the original 2 buildings were going to cost was approved, right? And $18 million were authorized. Like none of that happened, right? Really, all of these numbers, and from my perspective, and please feel free to chime in, really don't mean anything because they were all based on what if scenarios. They were all based on a whole variety. We've done our best to do an apples to apples comparison. At the end of the day, the new police department community centers cost $8.285 million. At the end of the day, if we get $1 million for it, great. But that's really the bottom line. So I don't want to be misleading, right? The previous governing body, they recognized that something was amiss. They recognized that we could have done something differently. Hence, we put the e-brake. Not we. I wasn't here. Kristen was here, but the e-brake was pulled, and then Kristen and I came in, and then we started going through this additional process, right? So I just want to be really clear. Now,
Just a real quick question,
Yeah.
original building calculation 10.3, who did that calculation? That was the third party.
no, the third party did the cost estimate. This was done between the owner's rep, facilities committee had involvement, Eli had involvement. Because if you remember, one of the items that we were tracking from time to time was trying to understand how much the 2-story building would have been, because it was 20-something hundred more square feet. So there was a presentation, I went back to pull the number where all this analysis was articulated step by step. So it just gives you an
Thank
idea,
you
yeah.
very much.
So when you're talking about the original building, you're talking about the design that this governing body first began to review and went from 2 stories to 1 story.
Yes, version E to version A, correct,
Okay.
Yeah.
So because the previous governing body never got that far. They never got into the whole design component. It was more, well, if we're gonna build it, maybe it'll cost us $8 million or $9 million. So we didn't really have any schematic to base
so,
cost on.
No, the last iteration of the building had full plans.
correct, ready to go out to bid with,
Full plans. It was a 2-story building in the same spot where we designed this building.
did
And
it?
first it was a garage. It was gonna be a storage garage, and you remember the
Right.
recommendation was to make
Where
it
the
more of a
community
community center.
center.
That's the one that originally was 10.
Okay, but it was different from this.
It's, yes, this is, we have a smaller footprint and height now.
That's really what I'm getting at. This cost is directly associated with the building that this governing body.
This one,
Yes.
yes, 100%.
We never fully approved the last building, but we got close. We got to a point where we had it estimated.
Well,
out.
we've gotten close a couple of times.
Correct.
But we never.
Went out to bid.
Right, and we never really got a true cost estimate.
I would say that's true. Was there a cost estimate for the previous PD, DPW, storage building, and I even think
There
bicentennial
was
hall was
one
attacked.
big number. that was
Yeah,
associated.
was there? Yes, and
But it wasn't really based on him.
I would say that's correct. I never saw or found an equivalent PCM, if that's the acronym, don't hold me to the acronym, right? But the third party company that does the cost estimate. I never saw the equivalent, and I don't believe that 100% cost estimate was ever done.
All we have is Eli's.
Yes, right, which you can't, like, that doesn't work that way. You have to have 100% cost estimate by a third party entity to ensure that you have enough funds up to go at, right? And do what you gotta do. So,
Teresa, didn't we do one with,
Brian Mead,
Right, I mean,
That's what
Excuse
PCM is.
that's PCM, so it's LCM is the other company. Because Brian Mead took what I'm calling a swag budget cursory and then did his analysis. There were two separate, there's two separate costs in here. Brian Mead took Eli's estimate, right? That big overall thing, did a deep dive into DPW and then did a swag for PD and community center. It was a one pager. For this, the actual third party entity that Eli contracts out to produce a cost estimate, and I feel like they're PCM, I keep using the wrong acronym. They did this cost estimate that came in. This was the 100% cost estimate of it.
And that's the most realistic.
This 100%. It's, you know, at the end of the day, it's apples and oranges. This previous one was a two-story building that then evolved into a two-story building with a garage, and we have a one-story PD and we have a fully functional community center now. So it's really difficult to compare. We do the best that we can, and that's why I don't want to mislead. At the end of the day, this is what this is the hard cost, right? It doesn't include furniture and all these other pieces, right? But this is what it's costing, right? I can give you some ideas of how much I think we would have saved. But I want to caveat because I didn't use it.
We still have soft costs in addition to that.
You got furniture, you got,
Landscaping,
no, that's included.
that's good.
Yeah, furniture, there's some technology components, third-party inspections, earthwork monitoring, right? You have all these other soft costs that comes in here. And that was part of the rationale, if you guys think back to January, why we wanted to redesign, right? Because I forget what the cost was back then, but there was all this other stuff that had to go into it, right? And that's how there were egregious numbers for it. It's not even worth raising. At the end of the day, we approached it fiscally responsibly. We have an idea that we did save an order of magnitude in the approach that we did. We did reduce the site of the PD by over 2,000 square feet. And then we added into this garage, right? The original garage footprint was 1,600 square, I think, don't quote me on the exact number. And then evolved it into a community center with bathrooms and meeting space and kitchen, right? All based on the open house feedback we got, so.
It's mean.
Great job.
Yeah. It's really hard. If anybody wants to dive into it, more than happy to do that. Next slide. I ate my 5 minutes there. Contingency space planning, gonna skip over that. We'll talk about that in executive session. No need to dive into it. Fish Chapel, the short-term parking agreement is on here tonight. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Greg. Went into a lot of work. We will talk long-term, right? You guys gave me specific directions last time, but we'll talk. And then I met with HT Hall Monuments and Headstones. These are folks that we've used before, and they've done the exact type of memorials that we're looking for. So once the short-term and long-term are kind of taken care of, we'll go down the memorial route. With some combination, we're working close with DJ on it, working closely with Fish Chapel, and then we'll bring back to the governing body for additional feedback and guidance.
And also Darren wanted to be part of that.
Yep, Daryl is, especially with Fish Chapel, and all of that. They're being close in the loop, and Daryl actually identified through DJ. DJ gave it to me through from Daryl, another resident. There's a local resident who deals with monuments, so we'll go to both. I get a chance to circle up the other individual. He had something personal the week that I was looking to meet with them, but now that Fish Chapel short and long-term agreements are looking really good, I can have a couple more cycles and devoted to that. Site monitoring, all right, really random, okay? There's this company, they hit us up, and basically said, hey, we know you're doing a new facility. You want us to set up cameras for the duration of the project, and at the end of it, you can log in, you can look, and you can watch the progress and all that. And at the end of it, we'll create a movie for you that shows you the progress of it from start to finish. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like, they give us a cost roughly $544 a month, figure the project 18 months, we're over $6,600, we'll have to get a second quote. But is this something we even want to entertain? Because I don't want to devote any more cycles to like
I'm not interested in spending taxpayer money on meeting.
Thank you. All right, full agree, are we good?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we'll take care of that. Thank you. Next slide. And then this is just really what next steps are. I'm not putting the schedule in here anymore, right? Look, the schedule, we are where we are. We're a week out. We're gonna get an updated quote to support the Fish Chapel long-term agreement. Finalize long-term park agreement, we'll talk about that tonight. We hit the memorial. I told you about appropriations. Once we have the DPW bid in and we know what that number is, we will do an overall review of all the costs and what it looks like. That's just on the back burner, the phase 2 community feedback. We'll talk about this in executive session. So what we're looking for is, and I think I might have skipped over it, if you can go back to, doesn't matter, we're looking for a special governing body meeting on the 18th at any time that works for us to approve to go out to bid once we get the fund certification from the CFO and bond council.
Does it have to be the 18th?
18 September, I can do 19. It's just what has been strongly encouraged is that we're eating into potential winter months and that the
Yep.
slab won't get kicked complete. So I hate asking for a special, I really don't like doing it, but,
I could do that afternoon, I just don't want it.
I can't do the 18th at all.
okay. 19,
Yes.
does that work? Chris?
I don't know. I looked at the 18th today, so I don't know whether it works. But
Okay.
Could we just do 18? I mean, it's just a vote, right?
It's a vote.
I put a special meeting resolution on for the 18th because I'm not here. So Christie can do it in the morning, like 9:30.
Oh,
Why did they do it
As a
first thing in the
placeholder.
morning? It's 5 minutes.
is it 5 minutes? So we're gonna be, this is awarding the,
It's just a
It's just
resolution.
the
we would
resolution.
bid.
It's just a
Once
resolution.
you have the funds
It's the
certified.
resolution that you have.
maybe it's just me, but like, there's a whole finance discussion about our bonds and kind of, I was hoping bond counsel could be here so we could ask some questions and understand a little bit more about that side of it.
Well,
That seems
Bond
also the right
counsel-
thing to do.
there's really not much for bond counsel to advise. She would want to know what we want to put in a future bond authorization. One of the reasons it's not on here tonight is the funding that's currently available for PD. We did the funding in 3 separate tranches, and we did the 2015 ordinances. We separated PD and DPW out, so those funds are not available for, they're specific to the buildings. So, when this came through and the amount of this award, we're very close in what we have authorized for the PD. And in order to award this bid, we'd have to hit into soft costs. And the other thing that I'm working with bond counsel and CFO on, when you have any project, there's a change order allowance. If you've got a $8.2 million project and your change order up allowance is 20%, you have to have $1.5 million in reserve someplace in case it happens. So, I know this much, we're going to have to authorize additional funding. If not to award PD, which we can do possibly on the 18th with what we have available. Certainly to give us that additional cost to make sure our soft costs are sufficient and our hard costs are sufficient, and then have a contingency in there for change orders. Not to mention, we're gonna have to need more money for DPW, because I already know the amount of money that we're gonna use up from that early funding in the bond ordinances that were for all facilities will all go to PD. So the only thing we have left is what we authorized in 2015 for based on the estimates, it's not gonna be enough. So,
I mean, I need to see that. Like, I need to see those bond ordinances. I need to see those authorizations. I was on a lot of those calls before I was elected. I know I know some of those numbers, but I need to see it. I need to understand.
Is there any way to get an outline? The ordinance, the year it was approved, the amount that was.
that's straightforward enough. to
And what we
do.
spent and why it is we need to do additional bonding. Like, we can't just say, oh, we need a bond. That's like, we need to understand that.
Well, I'm crystal clear on that, which is why we didn't.
That's why they didn't
why
put
we
it tonight.
pulled the-
Okay.
Because we need the funds.
So, I have a meeting tomorrow with CFO, with bond counsel to go through you know, all the particulars when it comes to this fund, sir. But, you know, it's really up to the governing body on whether or not, you know, you want to allocate more funding for PD separate from DPW, or do one bond ordinance to authorize, both together. Bond council will do anything we
I
have to
would
do.
want to ask bond council for advice and what sort of pluses and minuses there are to the various approaches. That's,
Well, first of all, bond council advice wise, it matters not to them which one they do. You know, you're really, if you want to talk about how it's going to impact,
the budget.
taxes or
Yeah.
future, that's not your bond council, that's your financial advisor who runs those numbers.
Well, they could both come. I think that would actually be best. They work
Well.
together as a unit,
They do work together as a unit,
yeah, but they could zoom in.
but, you know, whether you want to tie that to the award of the PD bid, because if you do, it's going to probably delay the award of that bid.
Do you wanna have a call this week?
I do, but it's also about, you know, I think it's also about our obligation to the public. I think that's a conversation that the public would, those who've been tracking or following or are interested may want to know as well. It's the first time I've ever done something like this, so I feel an obligation to be as transparent as possible. To me, that those kinds of questions could be answered by professionals better than, I mean, that's my position. A phone call is not gonna achieve that goal.
Yeah, I'm welcome feedback, guys. I mean, it's gotta be a decision with all of us.
I think it's important for residents to know that we went through the proper channels and
Yeah.
considered like what the actual process was and what we considered and, you know, all the different risk factors. But I think the education from what residents are most interested in is how their individual tax base is going to be impacted. And I think there's a whole opportunity there. And we've talked about a finance 101 being very open and transparent about what implications this is going to have. So I don't know if the public should be on this call, is what I'm trying to say, but I do think they should know the steps that we have taken, all the things that we considered and how.
Those are our professionals. We can have them there anytime we want. They can zoom in. It's not a big ask. So are you worried about a delay?
No, I'm trying to understand, like, what are we specifically, because what you just said is different than what she said, right? Those are two very different things, even than what Teresa said. So what are,
You can separate the award of the PD. That can be done, you know, on the 18th if the government, if provided, you know, when I meet with them and we go through all the numbers, you know, we're solid. It's not going to change the fact that what you're really talking about is how the additional authorization for PD and DPW is ultimately going to impact the
The community
taxpayer.
center and DPW.
Yes.
Yeah, right. That's what I think people are. very
And you know, the award of the bid is relying on a fund cert, and the CFO signs off that we have enough money authorized to award that bid on the 18th, you're gonna award it
For the one facility.
for the one facility, well, for PD.
PD and community center is one.
They're one.
Yeah.
It's not DPW. DPW requires a whole separate discussion. It requires engagements with the representatives. We have to come back and know how much money above what we have authorized DPW is gonna cost, right? That's why I've been tracking. Once we know what DPW is, we can come back here and look at the overall impact and discuss what this really looks like from a hard and soft cost perspective. We talked about outlining it from the tax perspective, but until we have the hard and fast number for DPW, we couldn't. The reason we pulled tonight was because we didn't have the fund certification, which you can't do it. You need to do that. Now, if she does the fund certification and we don't have enough funds and we need to go back, then we're at, right? There's nothing we can do, but that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is we needed a little bit more time to ensure that because this was spread across 3 ordinances, and those ordinances all have come back here to be reviewed and ensured that the language covered the use of all facilities, right? The goal is make sure the funding certification exists so we can award the project. We need what the DPW cost is gonna be to determine what delta there is and what additional authorization for funds are, which requires a whole separate process. You have to introduce an ordinance. Professionals have to come, it's gotta be open to the public, and then there has to be a 20-day period after it's adopted. I forget the name of the term. Thank you. Where that exists. So I'm not sure what we're like, you tell me what listen, this is.
And I don't know what the standard is as far as, you know, change orders, but I know, change orders have been higher than what most people have anticipated, in the last couple of years. Now that could have leveled off. But I do know you're not gonna have enough money in this fund cert to if you needed to have a 20% change order up, you don't have the extra.
For PD and.
Yes.
Is it,
So it
is
seems
it,
pretty straightforward.
is it possible to do the meeting, as we discussed on Monday morning? Put together some sort of presentation for the public and also get you on the phone. You can ask your questions and anything that you want included, we can put into that presentation.
Yeah, I mean, my request,
That
it
work?
doesn't, I don't wanna slow anything down.
So you asked one question in there, are you worried about, there is a concern for slowing it down. I read it today from from Eli. What,
Yes,
I don't have the expertise, so I have to look up what he said.
About the slab and the curing and
Yeah.
the, yeah,
Some,
so
yeah.
we get that. I
So
do.
he wrote, so with winter only a few months away, the loss of 2 weeks will be significant in terms of the likelihood that the contractor can finish the foundations before the coldest weather.
I understand that. So I'm just gonna say yes with the understanding that I do think there should be a discussion in this forum, not on a, I'll participate in a phone call to ask my questions. But I'll just repeat, I think.
Maybe we can add your questions to what we put out there. That's what I'm saying.
you might be premature for the 18th. You're not gonna have the DPW estimates done by then. In other words, what you're really looking at is how much in total are you gonna need to do for facilities? And at the end of the day, until we have all of our cost estimates done for DPW, we get a real clear feeling for, what the standard is on change order, bond authorizations and whether or not they traditionally, for a project of this size, want to have that authorized ahead of time. Those pieces are gonna take longer than between now and the 18th.
Okay, so you mean there's a larger window to accomplish what I'm asking for in
You're-
terms of.
Yeah, you're not gonna be asked to introduce a bond ordinance. And keeping in mind that the bond ordinance is gonna be required for the award of the DPW bid. So it takes, 2 meeting, introduction, adoption, and then 20-day estoppel. So we're already well into, November
Yeah.
until we can award the DPW bid.
So the fund certification mechanism. That is that the piece where you're talking about calling through the last three bond ordinances to look for the language to make sure?
Yeah, yes, look for the language, to look at how they presented as hard cost versus soft cost, because you can charge hard to soft, but not soft to hard. We have a lot of POs already encumbered of what was originally authorized for work that's been done or will be done, whether it's environmental work or whether it was the architect or whether it was the engineers. A lot of those things have, are already not sitting in those capital fund, accounts. So, there was just so many moving pieces. It was enough time for the CFO to actually, she's really gonna sit down and look long and hard on this and make sure. But what she's saying to you when she does a fund cert is, you presently have enough money authorized to award this bid. Now that's not saying that you're not gonna need to authorize more money for either PD and or DPW, because I'm already telling you that you're gonna need to. But you could separate those two pieces. If the CFO says you're good to go to award this bid, you can award the bid. But there will be a follow-up bond authorization that bond counsel would write. And then once we know, or at least have a general estimate of what that is, we can go to our financial advisor and say, how does this, ultimately gonna impact,
And that was always the intent to
That's
do that, always. We've been
So
talking
that's
about
what I'm
that.
asking for, that.
Yeah.
And to have that here, not like,
100%.
not that I wouldn't, jump on.
Yeah.
Because I think I'd probably learn a lot and that would be helpful, and I'm obviously more.
That was
willing to
always the
appreciate
intent,
the
always.
information. Okay,
always the intent. And now our windows kind of increased to be able to do that.
okay,
Because Because DPW came in, the cost estimates came a little bit higher than what has been authorized, not what was been budgeted, what was authorized. So we have to have those discussions, we have to bring it back here.
Exactly.
And so we can have the financial professionals here when we make sense of it. If we want to use the cost estimate, could it come under, sure, could it go over? So I don't know how we want to handle that. Like, I don't like to play the what if game. I like to know exactly how much is it gonna cost, and then what does that mean for us?
Right.
We can make some assumptions and say, all right, if the cost estimate is 4.5, let's make it an even 5, the worst case scenario, right? And then at the end of the day, I know I don't want this to happen, but I'll say it, if there's not enough money, then we'll have to reject, right? And kind of go back, so.
But that kind of push-pull, I think is gonna get granular
Yes.
in some sense, so I wanna make sure our professionals are here and available. We'll get much
100%.
more done
Yes,
in a shorter period of
Yes.
time, we can have access.
So I think that's more appropriate for your September regular public meeting.
Understood, I agree with you, yeah.
And
That helped a lot.
provided we have a fund
Yeah.
start from the CFO, you can still award on the 18th.
I hear you, yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
100%,
yeah.
always the intention.
There's a lot of confusion in the public around how taxes are calculated. We, from the beginning, regardless of this project, we've talked about more transparency around that and having a session. So now we have further cause.
Thank you.
And in the finance committee, I don't want to speak for Leilani, I want to be very respectful of her position as chairperson. I know that.
Well, new business, council committee reports, finance, Councilman La Rivera, moving along.
We have a meeting coming up in a couple weeks, but in a previous meeting, I don't recall when it was. There was a document that I saw that showed ordinances that were created. Not created, that's not the right word, ordinances, and when we would feel the impact of that, and what was the breakdown year by year for taxes, so I know that exists somewhere. The next meeting is. No, for finance is 19th September. That's all I have to cover.
Thank you. Personnel, Parks and Recreation, Councilman Hoey.
Sure. Personnel for their first, we were pleasantly surprised to receive a number of applications, qualified applications for the part-time librarian position, director, excuse me. As everybody knows, the director is going to be retiring at the end of September, so we've started that search now. We received, well into the double-digit number of applications. We conducted initial phone screens with about 9 of the most qualified applicants, and we're continuing that process this week with in-person interviews. Some more to come. In PD, we talked about it already. We're going to have interviews taking place on October 3rd for various promotions, and then I think we have a number of things that we're going to talk about in executive session. On a couple of good updates in Parks and Rec, first being AEDs have been installed. So for everyone that has been talking about them, they've been installed 2 at Fairhaven Fields, 1 at Bicentennial Hall. The other new ones will be placed eventually at CC and DPW once they're done. We are still working on the wiring and the signage, but they're there. Next, essentially they're pulled from what we've been told, correct, Chief? And the next question becomes, what does training look like? And so we're continuing those conversations.
I believe somebody's gonna reach out to the first aid and see if they
Right.
can do.
Yeah.
Townwide training. He's been doing that last couple of years.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
No, I'll follow up, but you're right, DJ did reach out to them, which is great. Tennis courts, I know that came up at the last meeting, there are a number of cracks in the tennis courts. DJ met with RFH to assess. Bottom line is that we're looking at late fall to fix the cracks after the tennis season, but before freezing takes place. And then we just sent a note to DJ and DPW today, because I know that there are some basketball hoops in need of repair in Eden Center Field, so those will be fixed as well. And let's just hope another tree does not fall on the fence tonight after the storm.
And just so you realize, the reason we met with RFH is, for those of you who don't know, we have an agreement as part of the interlocal we did for the purchasing or the funding of the tennis courts, and these type of maintenance issues are to be split between the borough and RFH.
Right. And our next rec meeting is actually tomorrow, 7:30.
Thank you, Councilman Hoey. Moving along, planning board, Councilman Koch.
The planning board did not meet in August, but our next meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday at 7:30 on September 19th. I'd also like to, the beautification committee is back in action. They are looking to reintroduce the memorial bench program as well as the memorial tree program. So there'll be more information coming forward on that. And that is it.
Thank you, Councilman Koch. Police, fire and OEM, Chris, are
He
you,
asked me to take it.
okay? Councilman Marlboro.
Fire, we're having discussions back and forth on, a couple of operational needs that have come up due to state or county changes. We'll likely have a meeting with fire coming up. On the police, I think we've talked about that enough, with the exception of Cambridge Avenue, all the parking and stop signs, if you recall. Up and running, Chief's been out there with enforcement, last week in this. And the Third Street stop signs in those two locations are up. The feedback has been,
phenomenal.
oh my God,
Yeah.
like fantastic, so like awesome. So that's police, fire, and OEM, engineer and DPW, our next meeting. I feel is 2 weeks, 28th September, maybe?
That feels right.
That feels about right. Just a couple updates, just to hit a few pieces here. We heard from the co-op that's doing the Fairhaven street lighting. Remember, we identified a co-op that would do the design. We don't need a Vakian to do the 18 grand. We should get that any day now. And then they'll be able to come here for review. That replaces all the street lighting that's been knocked down, broken, light bulbs. We probably need to go through the full scope of work when it comes back here, but it's something that residents keep emailing me about, so I just want to put it out there for everybody. Stormwater management, I want to hit this again. We sent the follow-up note to the county, on their, assessment that they're going to conduct. Rich can speak to piping that looks to appear to be going under River Road, but from Hans and Third, all the way through the Hans outlet's been cleared out. So I know that there's a formal report coming with what that looks like and whatnot, so, not gonna get,
No, that's good. I'm looking forward to that.
yeah, I can't wait. I'm not looking forward to the pictures too. Colonial Court, you'll notice, right, resolution tonight on the contract. So that's great news. That's moving in the right direction. We haven't heard anything on the DOT grant for Foreman, but Foreman and Smith, if you guys remember, there's those two issues there. One, the inlet is tilted the wrong way, and there's a piping misfits. That's one of the micro projects. Hopefully that gets started in the next couple of weeks. Micro projects, 2 governing body meetings ago, last one, we asked for feedback on the prioritization of it. Took all that pre-construction meetings. We're gonna be doing some walking and knocking on some residents that are gonna be directly impacted. Ricardo Pond, status quo, we do have a meeting set up this week internally. And the one thing I do want to call out is resolution. It's the one for this the NOCO site. Where is it?
Oh, yeah.
626.
220.
Yeah, 220, right? So, Rich, do you mind, so the performance guarantee, the acceptance of this means they're good to go to seek permits now, right?
It's one of the steps to the resolution compliance. They've made a submission recently based on our comments in my office and the planner's office. We can go through that, but they're close.
Finish line.
How many more things do they have to do?
It's a lot of the housekeeping stuff and checklist items within the resolution.
So it's a big step though, the fact that resolution compliance happened. Mr. Mayor, nothing else there, nothing else in facilities. On zoning board, we did meet on 7th September, went great. There was no application that was approved. Next meeting's 5 October. Few admin items did come up. The 2022 annual report's forthcoming, so we can expect another memo. Would like to draft a response. Maybe we bring it back here and we talk about the response back to the 2020 annual report as a governing body, if we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good move. And then the other piece too that came up, that was really interesting. They've seen an uptick in requests for extensions. So the current ordinance is that you get approved for a year with the variance, which some have stated that seems a little limited in how long it is. Separate from that, I think coming out of COVID, what they're seeing is that some people decided not to do it for a variety of reasons, supply chain costs, et cetera. So the zoning board is actually going to be coming up with a standardized process for extensions and what that looks like. And they're also going to be conducting an ordinance review to make recommendations to go back to planning. One of them is gonna be the 1 year limitation for variance approvals. But just wanted to give that update. It was the first meeting in 4 months, 3 months. So a lot went on, but all was good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Barbera, Borough Communications, Community Outreach, Councilman Cole.
Thank you, Mayor. Outreach Communications, has had a series of meetings focused primarily, at least the last few meetings, focused primarily on a communication strategy, particularly for all the construction that's happening. This includes facilities, road work, you name it, there's a lot going on. And, while there'll be more information to follow, we've talked specifically in terms of what are those narratives and how does it become digestible and readable and follow, how do residents track it? Because these will start, actually, they're underway already. And how can residents who are interested continue to track or follow it? So we have a few themes, a good way to kind of, with pictures, headlines, and sort of basic information with the option for a deep dive. We're going to structure a communications plan that we think is going to be helpful, tell a good story, but also give residents an opportunity it's a dialogue. So we hope that that's an opportunity for people to ask questions or on their own do that deep dive. But Kristen, do you want to add anything else to that?
The concept is really to come up with a hashtag consistent across all the projects that we're doing and have 3 pillars aligned with that hashtag. And then every time we have updates to make regarding whether it be the move or breaking ground, whatever it is, we want to demonstrate progress against those 3 pillars, and that will be done visually, it'll be done via the buzz, be done via social media, so that the community can follow along in this journey.
They care to, yeah. Along those lines, we realize the single greatest weakness in any communications strategy is whether or not we have a way to be in touch with people. So I have to point this out because Betty had me these cue cards. It's what's the buzz, has a little QR code. We'll get them out as best we can, but this is just another shameless plug to ask people to please either call Betty Ann and give her your contact information or scan the QR code if you see it. It's on every single email that comes out of the central office. Means Betty Ann, Christy, Allison, or Teresa even. You have a minute. You have a minute there, right? Oh, yes. And I want to thank our fellow governing body members who wore their buzz pin, shared the QR code, and took their turn at the fair. Again, the idea is if you're interested in getting information, please sign up so we can start that conversation with you. The Environmental Commission had their August recess. They are meeting next week, although there's a question of quorum. It's also RFH back to school night. Stay tuned. But then their next environmental roundtable is taking place on September 27th. The Green Team is hard at work on planning their pollinator garden, which they got a grant from Sustainable New Jersey grant for. I think many of you, I know I've seen the lanternfly tape, which has been deployed here and there, and a lot of folks in the Green Team have been helping to make that happen. They also, if you'll recall, there was a hot spot in the river around the Shrewsbury River. We probably had a discussion about that last time, and some Green Team crew and their kids circulated a friendly neighborhood letter to just share the message, because a lot of people don't actually understand if you're, if your dog goes to the bathroom in their yard and it rains and it goes into the creek on your property and that creek runs downhill, that's going to end up in the river. The DEP picks it up as hotspot, it's flagged, communication goes out, and it halts the DEP's ability to upgrade the whole river because of us. So we have one hotspot, and we're still on it. So along those lines, there's been an offline conversation about possibly having an annual report, like once a year, getting that raw data to the governing body. What are the test results? How's the river looking? When's the next prospective upgrade potentially available? We'll keep exploring that possibility. The Shade Tree Commission has been really busy. They have they launched the first ever resident tree buying program. There was a total of 56 trees ordered.
Wow.
Yeah, the nursery that it did this in partnership with us said it was a record.
How many, how many homes bought the 56 trees?
20, about 26 properties. So some people bought more than one tree. Well, most people bought more than one tree. So on the flip side, to date, there have been 77 tree permit removal applications. All of those applications with more than one tree. So we have at least 140 trees out of the ground, but we got 56
Back here.
in. So we're working our way to that net.
But I got to assume that a lot of the 144 may be dead trees also.
Totally,
As
whether,
part of
they're- yes.
Conversation as well.
Of course, or disease. In fact, along those lines, the Shade Tree Commission had a lengthy discussion about oak trees in the neighborhood near Briarwood and Pine Cove. There's some sort of disease. They're very concerned. We don't know if it travels. It looks like it might be spreading. They're gonna bring somebody in. They already did start with Bill. But stay tuned, because obviously our oak trees are treasures, and also if there is a disease, they want to be able to recommend some sort of treatment strategy for residents, so more on that. The Shade Tree Commission, with the help of Shari and Christy Larson, was able to get their grant application off. It was a resiliency grant to be able to conduct a tree inventory. A tree inventory is another one of the tools in their arsenal for managing canopy that we do have and keeping track of it, so they're building a good set of programs, tools, and resources for the borough. Let's see. On the grants committee, we're meeting on the
Monday.
18th. Yeah,
And the stormwater management grant is on the resolutions for tonight.
yes. And among several others, potentially EDA, TBA, we'll, as things get more real, we can report on that. At the moment, they're not. So.
I just want to point out though, like,
We
the establishment of the grant committee has been, I think, phenomenal already, the success, right? Like identifying the grants.
Mayor for that one.
I know, but even like the work that's gone into it, right? When you look at, the grants that we've been looking at and the awards, I don't want that to go unnoticed. Like,
Yeah.
it requires a tremendous amount of work on the front end, right? With the writing and all of that, but
Well, we're not doing the writing. Just to be clear, the committee is a clearinghouse of volunteers that can kind of track and identify. And our goal is to create a summary sheet for the governing bodies consideration. The committee has no authority. And a lot of the grants that we apply for staff is on top of this DOT or the money for stormwater management. If there's a new set of regs that come out, the state's also going to release grants to help implement those regs. And so that's some of what
I think it's great.
But yeah, thanks. Regarding the business district, we're also looking at a couple of grants to help do some long-term planning that will set us up to position our small town business district to continue to remain a charming small town business district. I want to report that the Historic Association of Fairhaven has did its relaunch of the traditional annual garden party. Many of you were there, and it was a fabulous party. But we
I heard
have,
the location was.
oh,
Yeah. That's our new borough.
right. It does feature a water slide, the right side.
Anybody interested in also renting that space, it goes for $10 an hour.
95 days or more.
And specifically, they like to rent it on Friday and Saturday nights.
But I'll never be there, the cocktail poolside. But no, in all honesty, I want to take a moment and recognize that the leadership and the volunteerism that went into relaunching this, it's,
Great event.
and people who have been to it before would know, this was the first time I attended, but it's been 12 years since the garden party was had. I don't have numbers, but because they're still reconciling everything, but we also were able to raise a lot of money. All those proceeds go to the preservation of Bicentennial Hall, and I'll be able to report out more of that when the numbers are provided. And that's my report.
Thank you.
Oh, no, it's not on my report. I'm so sorry. The Shade Tree Commission, I have to go back. They sent a memo to the governing body regarding a large tree on Hants. And you all got this memo. And I, as long as everybody got it, I don't need to specifically read from it, except to say, first and foremost, the Shade Tree Commission spent a lot of time talking about this with an emphasis on how much they appreciate the effort that went into trying to make sure that that tree isn't lost, at least not prematurely lost. They specifically were grateful to the mayor, through myself, I was involved. We heard from the Shade Tree Commission, took several meetings with residents and the mayor himself, and they know everyone's really put in a major effort. The request from the Shade Tree Commission followed from the memo, which as their liaison, I am extending here tonight, is to see if there's a way to, instead of preemptively removing the tree, give the tree a chance to survive the pruning that is imminent. The new pole location, the new pole is in. It's not as far back as we anticipated. It was supposed to be 4 feet in from the road, and it looks to be about 25, 24, 26 inches in or back. Meaning there'll be less pruning of the canopy that will be required. That's new information. Just tonight I looked at that, but the hope is if there's agreement, the utility company doesn't take down the tree prematurely, but allows the opportunity to, certainly it will stress, but hopefully also bounce back. It's been around for over 200 years, and I'm sure this isn't the worst thing it's ever seen. So it's still with us now, and that's the request from the Shade Tree Commission.
Completed?
Are we in communication with the utility company?
We have any number of back and forth with the utility company. I haven't seen anything since the pole's been moved.
What was the last communication?
I'd honestly have to go back and look at it, Tracy.
Okay. So there's, it's something I was on the first wave of those communications. Perhaps I can be included in the ongoing, but at least at this point, the pole's not as far back, therefore perhaps the canopy won't be as brutally pruned as was initially considered. There's a spark of hope from a subset of the community, and I'm here to convey that tonight.
Good.
Well, who's the person that talks to the utility company?
It's been a series of emails between myself, Verizon, JCP&L, and I'm sure the mayor, and I mean, you've been on a few of them. I'd have to see what the latest one was sent. I just wrote myself a note.
Okay.
I vaguely remember, I think the poll was set and then JCP&L got tagged.
I think JCP&L, it
There's like-
was waiting till the poll was set before they, did a final assessment of what their plan for was going to be.
For the tree, you mean?
Mhm.
Uh-huh. So they're gonna reassess based on the new pole location. Okay. Well, if I could get CC'd on those communications, then I can track it for the commission, and if there's an opportunity, I can communicate with them.
Oh, the last one we have.
Thank you.
Good.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Councilwoman Paul. Moving along, introduction of ordinances, 2023-13, men's salary ordinance number 2022-02 to include additional police positions. This is for the SLEO, I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's
Anybody
the
have any
only,
questions?
the only change, nothing else changed to this, was adding the fact that there wasn't the class 3 in here and the class 2 work in the school, and it just updated to capture that.
Yeah, anyone have any questions? Anyone have a motion?
All motion.
Second,
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Paul,
Yes.
Owen. Yes.
yes.
Paul Rivera.
Yes.
Or I think we just lost.
He might be out in the parking lot.
Okay, this will be listed for hearing and adoption on September 26th. Moving along to the consent agenda, just two things to highlight here. There's an added resolution 2023-233. That was the one we just discussed recently, to authorize a special meeting for September 18th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. to award the bid and authorize contract execution for the new police department and community center. And I also want to highlight that we have pulled resolution 2023-234 off of the agenda. That was the original award bid and authorized contract execution for those same buildings.
And Mayor, the executive session, resolution, I'd like to add, under personnel, planning and zoning, staffing.
That's a recommended resolution.
We did talk about that.
Okay. 1 sec. That's 2023-215.
Yes,
Mhm.
you have an amended resolution
Okay,
at the day for everybody.
Uh,
The public.
okay. So we're talking about 2023-215, 215 being amended through 2023-233.
And just for the record, Councilman Rodriguez.
Was he yes?
Accident, and he said he's in
Wait.
accident, we have him back.
Did you just say it was an accident?
No, I accidentally,
Oh,
I
No,
hit end instead of unmute. Sorry, guys.
She was so calm back.
I'm
there.
sorry. I was like, I don't care how you put it, Allison.
Mayor, if I may just
Yeah.
write some fidelity on 222. This is BFI, this is the letter of intent, the final overview, et cetera. We're following the same protocol, PD Community Center, so that will come back here to the governing body. Just want to highlight that.
Okay, does anyone want to separate anything from the consent agenda?
I just had one question, it doesn't need to be separated, I don't think at all, but, and may I ask my question, it's on 225. The stormwater grant. Stormwater management grant. Do we have to my knowledge, we haven't identified how specifically we'll be deploying that grant. It's not in the
No,
rest.
we actually have, this is just chapter 159 to allow us to access the grant from the finance office, but we actually have, already appointed, Avakian to actually do the permitting for the tier A permit. I believe some of these funds can be used to offset that. I think it was about $9,000. But I did send them an email with a copy of this grant to Avakian. And I'm assuming as part of the email, I asked them that we would want their input on what would be appropriate expenditures that could be charged to the grant.
We would want that, and I think that would be up to this governing body to support what those priorities would be. Am I missing anything?
No, like I said, this grant, it's the state throwing us a
Yes.
small bone, shall I say?
Yes.
And what would overall be ultimately,
Yes.
the cost that's gonna be associated with the new stormwater regs.
Yeah.
So, I think this initial $25,000 tranche for most towns would be probably the consultants or,
Planning phase,
yes.
with the idea that this will be an annual application. We'll be applying it.
I have no indication the state's gonna pony up annually yet.
Oh.
I didn't get that. If that's the case, I haven't read it in place.
Okay,
Like I said, to me, this is a small bone they're throwing us.
okay.
And this resolution is just allowing Colleen to be able to add that into our budget.
Yeah.
And send it to the state.
Whenever a grant comes in
Oh,
after
just
you,
send it to the state. Still, I thought if we should identify projects, so I see it's gonna be for planning to help us then set a roadmap for.
whenever we get a grant after the budget's adopted, we have to do this chapter.
Thank you.
Just to let the state know we're amending our budget as.
Anything else on the consent agenda? No? Anyone have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Paul,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, moving along, department reports, July 2023, municipal court, August 2023. Municipal clerk, dog license, budget status, motion to accept the reports as submitted.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Go to the borough. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please observe a time limit of 3 minutes. Anyone in the public, if they could borough comment. Allison? Yes, sure. Come on up, sir.
Bob Talbot is here, I don't know if it was last month or the month before. Sorry, 81 Fairhaven Road. So, you have to send an application in to remove a tree, is this a specific application for that? I heard some, well,
Depends on the size of the tree.
it's a pretty big tree, I showed you pictures of it
Yeah, I
last time.
remember your tree.
And, almost all the leaves are down in the tree, the tree is definitely dying. And it's gonna fall on somebody or some car or a house or something. There are bugs in it, you really have to take care of it, so. I don't know how we can encourage you to do that. I know you have lots of other things to spend your money on.
Where's this tree again?
I'm sorry.
I feel like I feel like we started the process on this.
But I didn't get any feedback.
No, yeah. Oh, so nobody, okay,
No one's contacted me,
check, okay.
but that would be great if you could do that.
So will this, I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Bob Feldman.
So is the Feldman property in the vicinity of the micro project? Yes. Oh, very, so, yeah,
And there's another tree, that's not so great next to it, but that's.
I believe they've been
Yeah.
identified as part of the.
I'll give you the update right now, right? There was a report done on it. There's funds to remove it as part of the micro projects. Micro projects pre-construction meeting happened about 2 weeks ago. So, and I know the tree removal portion's happening within
Few days.
I feel like it's imminent. So one, apologies that you were communicated with, but the tree's coming down. I think we have a date
We got a report
from Sherry.
from our certified tree expert.
Yep.
Which is our consultant. I then had that forwarded to Shade Tree,
Mhm.
that was back earlier this summer, they didn't meet.
Yeah, that's right.
They just had a meeting recently, that was incorporated in the memo that we just got this week.
Yeah, today,
Today.
right, you're right.
So I plan to schedule to talk to our engineering and public works committee to see how we want to proceed. The micro projects has some tree removal in it, but it didn't specifically identify trees to be removed in that ordinance. My recommendation was fixing some of the brick sidewalks, resetting some of the bricks and making the sidewalks more passable. Now the time to address some of those situations.
Okay. So we made progress since you were left here. Let us have our internal discussion. We'll get you an answer for what's exactly happening.
Thank you, I appreciate
Fair.
that. Thank
Do you have your
Bob.
email address?
Regina, Regina.
I have that information from the
Perfect.
last meeting
All
that
right.
I voted on.
I'll get it from Allison and we'll follow up with you, sir.
Hopefully not from the next.
I have your
meeting.
number.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else in the public? Michael?
I'm sorry. No, no worries. Since I'm here and you're all here, Michael DiMaselli, 500 River Road, I thought I'd give you an update. Thank you for cleaning out the pipes. It definitely has made a difference. So last night was the first night we got a little bit of rain or that we did pool more, and it seemed to be flowing for a long time. And then kind of later in the night, maybe like 2 or 3 in the morning, it started just sitting in the thing. So I guess it must get to a capacity and then just can't handle it anymore. So it's definitely helping, because usually this happens a lot quicker, and our backyard did flood, but it wasn't as much. So thank you, and I know you're taking it from all different angles, but figured I'd give you an update, but
Awesome.
it's definitely, and we'll find out what's happening. I don't know what's happening, I'm gonna try to get an update, but it did take longer for it to happen, so that's definitely.
It wasn't 30 minutes.
It wasn't there, because usually like, if it's really heavy, it comes down, it just fills up right away, so it's definitely draining a lot better, which is not a surprise based on what you've done, but, so thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else in the public? Go to the borough. Allison, anyone on Zoom?
I have Marty Eager. Ms. Vader, you
Hi.
can-
Can you hear me?
Yes. How
Oh,
are you?
hi. Okay, Marty Egger, 33 Hants Road. And, I just wanted to ask a point of clarification on the tree that Tracy was talking about, the Shade Tree Commission, because I did go down there the other day. I saw that they had the road blocked and that they were moving the pole. And when I went down there to check, it looked like the pole was only moved about, I would guess, 18 inches or so. I mean, it was just a little bit. So just a point of clarification for me, why did the pole have to be moved at all? If it was only being moved like 18 inches, it seems like an awful lot of effort and resources and expense to just move a pole 18 inches. And did that result in helping or hurting trying to save the tree? So if you have any clarification on that, I would love to hear it. Thank you.
I don't know if anyone else has any clarification that they'd like to share.
Well, all I know is that the pole was originally supposed to be moved about 4 feet, which would have definitely impacted the tree. I was out there, it looked like more than 18 inches. I measured it. I think it's more like 25, 26 inches, but it's not 4 feet. And, you know, I don't know whether somebody made a call. I have no idea. It's very hard to track the comings and goings of our utility companies, although best efforts were certainly made by members of this governing body and the mayor. So, you know, at this point, I don't really know what the utility company is doing, since what they did do was unexpected, even if it's a good thing. It's not what we anticipated. That probably isn't a whole lot of clarification, but it is all I know at the moment.
And we don't know which utility company authorized or needed this moved?
Verizon.
Verizon?
Mhm.
Thank
The
you.
next action is the JCP&L.
Say again?
Verizon moved the pole, it's Verizon's pole.
Yeah,
And then next step is for JCP&L to assess moving the power, I'm gonna call it power lines, it might not be the official term, but the power lines
Right.
from the existing pole. A little complicated because there's two, not complicated in the sense of that it's difficult, but it's complex in the sense of that there's 2 or 3 other poles there that have been set previously. So we haven't got an update from JCP&L yet on the status of them shifting their lines and what that entails.
okay. Well, thank you. I'm still very confused about why it had to be moved, or who authorized it, or why they only ended up moving it a little bit. But thank you very much for trying to clarify this. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Mhm.
Anyone else, Allison?
Okay, speak, Julia Kern.
Oh,
Hi, Julia.
Just dropped off. Have Susan Mola.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for your effort. This is Susie Morrow, and my husband Brian is here also. And we would just like to reiterate that this tree is in the back of our yard, and we've already had trees come down for this curb project. And we've been very cooperative about it. But this tree happens to be a spectacular tree. And I don't speak about trees being spectacular in any way in my life. I'm not on the tree committee, and that's really not something that I care about. But when we sit in our backyard, this tree is so spectacular that we've thought about putting up lighting back there because it's really magnificent. So I would have to say that in the 3 years that we've been dealing with this mismanaged project, we have been cooperative, and we've been really open to communicating with whoever is in charge about doing it properly. But now it's gotten to the point where we really have to speak up and say, okay, time out. Like, we shouldn't be taking down a tree of this magnitude, and we should be really looking at how can we work around this tree and put the poles where they need to be. You know, it's come to our attention that we haven't even been communicating about where the new poles are going to be placed on one Hance. And that really needs to be looked at when we're looking at this entire project. And it's kind of concerning that that wasn't looked at from the start of this project. But where we are now, we just like to see, can we stop now and say, where are we? And can we just not take down this tree and put the pole where it needs? So without calling anybody out on not looking at it appropriately from the beginning, maybe 3 years ago, let's look at it now and just say, hey, what can we do now to make sure that we don't make any more mistakes? And looking forward, how do we avoid this happening? Like, who is looking at these projects in a holistic approach so that we're not making these type of mistakes that shouldn't happen from the start? And maybe we assess, why is that happening at all? So I really don't like to get too involved in this, and I'm kind of like at my end with it, but you know, I think we need to question why this is even happening. Like, what went wrong? So that's all I have to say. If there's anything we can do to help, we're happy to do that. But I think that needs to be said.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
Anyone else, Allison?
Julia Curran is back.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, we were having some trouble here, but this is Christine and Julia Hearn. We're at 209 Dartmouth Avenue, and we just wanted to bring to your attention the rat infestation that's been happening on our block and surrounding streets. Thank you, Councilwoman Hoey. You've helped us tremendously so far, but it's unnerving to walk around your house in eggshells. I've lived here 20 years. I've never seen a rat. And now that the chickens are gone down the road from us, they're looking for a new food source, obviously. Sorry, my dog's barking, but they're just making their way down the street. And this is becoming a financial burden for us along with neighbors. And the situation is just escalating. So we're really just looking for your help here and how you're going to mitigate this situation.
I think we sent the health inspector out there today.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
came,
so
but it didn't really do anything for us, honestly.
well, I don't think the health inspector has given the report.
His report,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the health inspector isn't gonna come and, just whisk the rats away immediately. I think they have to do a more in-depth analysis and see what the root of the issue is. And once they identify that, then they can put a plan in place. It's just not as instantaneous as we all would hope. We'll be happy if you want us to communicate through Councilwoman Hoey to you and let you know what the report is and what they're recommending as soon as we hear back.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just become a financial burden, obviously, and we just would like it to be fixed as soon as possible. But I totally understand that's the first step of it. And if it just takes a little bit to get the report, then that is what it is. But thank you so much, Councilwoman Hoey. You really have helped us here. But yeah, that's just my say on it. But thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Allison, anyone else?
Next, we have Mrs. Blazer.
Hi, Ruth.
Good evening. Just a point of clarification on the resolution list. You're giving Hughes an extension on Colonial Court. What are you giving him an extension to do? What are you looking for him to do?
May I let you speak that?
Yeah.
We're looking for him to implement drainage that he originally had as part of his plans when he originally submitted for the subdivision. We believe that is amplifying some drainage issues we're having over in that area.
Okay, but you keep giving him extensions and it keeps raining. It's just, at some point you've got to say, this is it. This is the drop dead date.
We understand.
I believe this is more than the third extension.
Yes.
Yeah, without getting into too many particulars here, I'm pretty comfortable with the way the governing body in the very short term has handled the situation.
Mm-hmm. The other thing being, I think every once in a while you folks lose sight of the fact of the size of Fairhaven, that it has not gotten any bigger and the population has not fluctuated dramatically, but we keep adding people, we keep adding administration, we keep adding employees. And I have an old Focus that listed maybe running the whole town. I'm not talking about mayor and council, I'm talking about actual borough employees. It was running with maybe 10 employees. And now we've not only got more, but we were also outsourcing stuff. So you can say, okay, the world has gotten more complicated. Yes, it has, but we've also in overtime gotten the internet. We've gotten so many cost or time-saving things that this would really, really not be necessary. But that's just my opinion. Thank you, folks. Good evening.
Thank you, Ruth. Allison, anyone else? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, can I follow up one quick question?
Sure.
I'm sure you know what to that. And it sounds like you can't talk about it much, but Michael DiMaselli, 522 River Road. So from what I'm understanding, it sounds like what he did put in was not what was originally approved. Is that what you're saying?
No, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't want to share my strategy with our negotiation with
Okay,
Mr. Hughes and the
so he's
public
not an
forum.
extension to make changes.
Focus. Focus.
So there will be more additional changes.
Yeah, his site plan work he has to finish.
Got it.
And
That was
he
not
has to-
completed.
So it's nothing changed, it's
No.
just the stuff, okay,
Just wasn't completed, but as far as the strategy and our
that's fine.
move forward, we're not gonna
I don't
share.
wanna screw them.
That's laid out pretty well in the resolution here.
Okay, I agree. All right, thank you.
Allison, we're still good?
We are still good.
Okay, so with that, we are going to move to executive session, 8:58 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Great.
Motion. Closing, regular session at 10:07 PM.
Close, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Oh.
Only the Jets.